Okay, so since we're talking about electric vehicles, I have to ask, are you a Tesla fan?
I am not a Tesla fan. Not at all.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on a podcast, Apple, Spotify, thanks so much. It means a lot. We are here with special guest Casey, General Manager of Capital of Chevrolet. It's exciting. We're going to talk about electric vehicles. A lot to dive into. Just got three main questions, so we're gonna hit it really fast and get out because I know our viewers have a lot to do. We want to give them as much information as possible in as little time. So numerous auto manufacturers have stated a promise that electric fleet is coming. Like they want to have a full electric fleet in the near future. I don't know what that means in terms of years, months out, but how do you see Chevy kind of leading its own fleet towards this mission of electrification?
I think Chevrolet's really been on the forefront with the electrification process. Obviously, we were talking earlier about the Volt that they began with, and then they've migrated into the Bolt, which is an all-electric vehicle now. I think that there's a real opportunity with commercial fleet to go commercial because it can, or to go electric, because it can really lower the cost of, for a company like a local plumbing company, if they have a fleet of 20 electric vans on the road. I mean, what it can do as far as cutting down on their cost of gas every month. I mean, I'm really excited about that, and I know that General Motors is diving into that realm.
Yeah, and I think Amazon has said something about that as well with their Amazon delivery trucks that they're trying to. They have a similar mission. They're trying to be all electric. So, what do you think the biggest hurdle is going to be, or like the biggest hurdle to overcome to get to this being all electric, this electrification? Like, what's in our way, I guess?
I think infrastructure. I think we're ways out with infrastructure. I think as the technology with batteries gets better, I mean, I think we're an instant gratification culture. And so the fact that currently, I mean, the longest range electric vehicle is really probably 350 miles. And then you have to stop and charge your car for an hour.
45 minutes or something,
And once they get that range to 700 to 1,000 mile range on a vehicle, it really opens up that door for growing that market. But, if you're going to leave Raleigh and drive to Charleston and have to stop and charge your car for a weekend getaway, you got to stop and charge for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and
that's kind of limiting.
Especially if you're talking about commercial vehicles like you were just a minute ago. If that's going to translate into 18-wheelers, U-Hauls, things like that, you can't have 300 miles and then the U-Haul stops.
No.
You know what I mean?
Because time's our most valuable asset, from a personal level and if you're a business owner and have a whole set of employees that are working for you, that every minute that they're down and that car is charging is costing you money.
Oh, absolutely. So when we think about the customers a little bit, have you seen customers asking more about electric or hybrid vehicles? Were they asking more about it in the past, or now that it's coming up, are they asking about it more? Are they eager? Are they ready, waiting? Like, what do you think the customer is expecting?
I think there's definitely a heightened sense of awareness around electric vehicles. I think a lot of it is market dependent, depending on where you are. And I think that will, cause a lot of, or lead to how fast that we get into electrification of vehicles in the vehicle fleet, because of more rural areas, people, they really don't, their interest in electric vehicles is not as much as it is in a major metro market, but they're also having to drive further every day to get their, for their task, as opposed to a city like Raleigh. Everything's at your fingertips. You can drive 5 minutes and get to places to eat. Most people work close to home, grocery stores. And so I think that it's really dependent on where you live across the U.S.
Yeah, and so you mentioned like marketing differently. Is that what you mean? Like marketing in terms of like regular vehicles versus these electric vehicles are going to have to be marketed a lot differently, or are you just talking about location, like hitting specific audiences?
I don't know that you necessarily need to market differently.
Okay.
What I'm saying is I think depending on what market you're in.
Okay.
I think, whether you're in Raleigh versus, Goldsboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that those two markets, the pace at which they move toward an electrification of, the majority of the vehicles there in that particular community, I think they're different. I think Raleigh, Charlotte, your major metro markets across the U.S. will be a lot quicker because I think the infrastructure is easier to get there. But the smaller, more rural areas across the U.S. I think will be slower to getting to that level.
Yeah.
Of full electrification.
Absolutely. So what can we look forward to immediately? Like, what do you think is going to happen, I guess, fresh, quickly? Like, what's the next thing we can expect to see, I guess, in respect to Chevy? Not just, you don't have to speak for all electric vehicles everywhere, but what do we look forward to right now?
I mean, I'm excited about an electric pickup. I think that'll
Yeah.
be really neat. We haven't had one of those yet. We've had hybrids in the past, but I think a fully electric pickup will be really neat. And to see the range and the towing capacity and the capabilities as far as payload, I think that that'll be really exciting on the forefront for Chevrolet. And from a van standpoint, as they get into electrification of vans, to really see what we can offer our consumers with an electric van and what it can save our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. All those small businesses you mentioned,
Yeah.
that's going to be a real game changer. Okay, so since we're talking about electric vehicles, I have to ask, are you a Tesla fan?
I am not a Tesla fan. Not at all.
All right, let's expand on this a little bit.
I think that they've done a good job as a company, but I think the biggest problem with Tesla for me and across the U.S. is from a dealership network perspective. They directly sell to the end consumer, and that's fine as long as it's on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
But as it grows, I think that the end consumer and the customer really loses a service aspect of it. Because if we talked a little bit earlier, but if a customer's in Eastern North Carolina, 175 miles outside of Raleigh, and their Tesla breaks down, where are they going? And who's working on their car?
Yeah, or my friend that drove from here to Atlanta, if something happens 5 hours out, what do? You got to get it towed, right? There's no...
And where's the nearest Tesla dealership?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And so as opposed if you're on your Chevrolet Bolt and you break down 175 miles outside of Raleigh in Eastern North Carolina,
You just go to another one.
you go to the nearest Chevrolet dealership, and there's generally one within every 20 to 30 miles. And so just that dealership infrastructure is important, not just with Chevrolet, but with all the major brands that have consisted of a dealership network over the last 100 years. And so I think that that's a really important thing for consumers to remember whenever they're considering their electric car purchase.
Do you think that that the consumer base is gonna stay separate? Because just doing my own research on Tesla, I don't have one. I have friends that have one. Their model's very strange. It's very different. But just watching interviews and listening to Tesla fans, I guess is what we would call it. They're very just loyal, specific people. The end consumer, like you mentioned, like these are like the diehard Apple fans of cars. So, do you think the two consumer bases will just stay separate, or is there going to be a fight for marketing and which car is better? Or
I think it's just another player, in the market. I don't know that it's going to be necessarily a fight. Obviously it's another competitor, but I think at the end of the day, the consumers will end up choosing where they're getting the better service.
Absolutely.
Are they getting the better service from a broad range of dealership networks or a single store in every state? And where they get what makes them happier. And like we talked about, I mean, time is our most valuable asset. If they've got to wait, 4 or 5 hours to get their car towed to the nearest Tesla site to get worked on, and then it has to be towed back, and it just creates a lot of challenges whenever you don't have that dealership network.
Or if they decide to update their car and it never finishes.
That's exactly right.
That's the part that's weirdest to me, I think. I got to connect my car to the Wi-Fi and then just wait for it to boot up.
Definitely. And I think consumers really need to remember what the dealership body brings to their local communities. I mean, as a whole, dealerships are the most charitable organizations within their respective communities, and so across the U.S. And that being said, from just a loyalty standpoint, when you support a company that doesn't have that network, where's who is going to sponsor your kids' baseball team?
Right.
I mean, local charity events and things like that. I mean, that means a lot to me, when you look at what the dealer body does across the U.S.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions I have. This has been great. I think we have informed our viewers of what to be looking for. So, Casey, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. If you're tuning in, Apple and Spotify, please don't forget to subscribe. Hit the little notification bell or the little icon so you can be notified when more episodes and stuff like that come out. Casey, I hope we have a chance to talk again.
Definitely.
And thanks so much for watching. Until next time, go forward.